Hi guys, my name is Erin, I'm a professional wedding photographer, and today I want to talk about why winter weddings in Australia are awesome. We definitely have two distinct wedding seasons in Australia, which is early in the year in autumn, sort of around March and April, and then again in spring, so September, October kind of time. Lots of people get married then, the dates are very competitive, and then there's a little break through the winter period. Don't get me wrong, people are still getting married through June, July and August, but there's a lot less of them, and I don't really understand why, because the weather is fantastic through these months generally. Okay, keeping in mind that I live in Brisbane, which is in southeast Queensland, which means it's pretty warm all year round. We complain about winter as soon as it gets sort of below 20 degrees, but it's not really that bad. To give you an example, right now it's about 10 o'clock in the morning on your standard Thursday, and it's 17 degrees outside. Not that cold. Not especially, super warm either, but not that cold. Today we're supposed to hit a high of 20 degrees. On Saturday it's going to be 23, and next week on Tuesday we're supposed to be up to 26 degrees. So that's definitely not an uncomfortable temperature to be married in. Of course, there are parts of Australia where it does get quite cold, but that's not to say you can't still have an awesome winter wedding in any of these places. Here are my top 4 reasons why getting married in southeast Queensland and northern New South Wales in winter is super awesome. Number 1, you don't have to worry about sweat and humidity. Sweat is the worst. It will make your makeup come off, it'll have the guy's shirts sticking to them, and if they're wearing white or a light blue or something like that, then they'll become kind of see-through and gross. Humidity in the air can wreak havoc with your hair and make it frizzy. The sweat in your hair can make the curls come out if you're wearing your hair down. So there's a lot of reasons why sweat is your enemy on the wedding day. If you don't have to deal with sweat, you don't have any of these problems. And in winter, the boys can wear their long sleeves and be totally comfortable. You can wear a long dress and not be sweating underneath. You can pop on a pair of stockings if you're worried that you're going to get cold. You can have a beautiful little bolero and elevate your wedding fashion and look really classy and fancy. I've seen lots of those beautiful fake fur little boleros that are so gorgeous and keep your shoulders warm and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of options out there. Reason number 2, you will have more wedding vendors, more venues and more wedding dates available to you. I mentioned earlier that March and April and May and then September, October and sometimes into November can be really popular months for weddings, and there are only so many Saturdays in those months, and people still tend to favour Saturdays over other days, although it is changing. I do photograph a lot of Friday and a lot of Sunday weddings these days, and elopements can be any day of the week, so that's always good. Because these months are so popular, it can actually get really competitive trying to book in the dates that you want and the vendors that you want, and a lot of them might be booked out in advance. Of course, I can't guarantee that the vendors that you want and the date and the venue that you're after will be absolutely free because you want to get married in winter, but you definitely have a much better chance of getting what you want and when you want it if you're planning your wedding in the winter months. Number 3, your bridal portrait locations will be far less busy than they would be in a summer or a spring and autumn month. If you're planning to have your bridal portraits taken on a beach, in a park, in a kind of foresty location, anywhere that's natural like that, that's generally a bit of a tourist attraction, then you're going to have a lot less people to deal with if it's a little bit cooler and people aren't generally getting out and exploring. That means more photo options and no audience for you guys, which is always nice to take that pressure off of eyes watching. Have you guys ever noticed that when people out in public see a wedding, they're like really want to take a picture or like just stand and watch, and half the time they're in the background of photos and they don't actually know. So hot tip, if you see a wedding and you're out in public somewhere and you see a photographer and the lens is pointed anywhere in your general direction, please move. That photographer will love you for it. And number 4, which is a very important point, the weather is likely to be lovely. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's always perfect weather all through winter. We have had a couple of rainy days lately, and it's generally always raining for that New South Wales long weekend in the early weeks of June, because it almost always rains on Cooley Rocks On. Have you guys noticed that? But in general, there's a lot less rainfall through June, July and August, which means that you'll have a better shot at beautiful sunshine on your wedding day if that's something that's important to you. There are a couple of things that you need to keep in mind if you're planning a winter wedding. The main one for me is that the sunset time is much earlier than it is through summer. At the moment, it's sort of mid-July. The sun sets around about 5 p.m. It's like once we hit 5 p.m. there's no more light. As we move further towards spring, the sunset time will grow later and later, but if you were planning, say your wedding was in December, you would have so long. The sun doesn't set until probably like 6:30, 7 p.m, so there's a lot more leeway there for your timing for your bridal portraits and your ceremony and that sort of thing. If you're getting married in winter, then you're going to want to have your ceremony much earlier to make sure you still have enough time for your bridal portraits before you lose the sun. But it does mean that if you wanted beautiful sunset shots, you likely won't have to sneak out of your reception to grab those with your photographer, because the sun's going to set before you guys sit down to your reception anyway, so that works out really well. These are my top 4 tips as to why having a winter wedding in Southeast Queensland, Northern New South Wales is an awesome idea. If you're planning your wedding at the moment and you haven't locked in a date yet, I really urge you to consider winter because it'll make your life so much easier. Not many people know that. I hope you've learned something from this video and I hope you're having a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. See you next time. And there's my cat wanting to be let inside at the same time the plane flies over, so at least I'm coordinating my noises now.